Hey everyone, Justin Russell with RussellMarineProducts.com. Today we're going to go over a little bit on how to wet sand and polish your boat. Now, a little backstory on this boat. This is a 1993 Champion, 18 foot, and this is an all metal flake boat, meaning it'll have metal flake with a clear coat on top. And this is important to know, especially when it comes to the wet sanding and polishing stage, because you can sand too far, and what will happen is you'll turn this metal flake a little bit silver. So in this process, if you're working on your own boat and you happen to notice that some of the darker metal flake may be turning silver or the red's turning silver, you've sanded too far, and there's not really anything you can do to bring that back besides respraying the metal flake and re-clear coating it. But now, boats are different than automotive, so please don't try to do this on your vehicle because this process is going to be much different. The gel coat application is actually 7 times thicker than what your automotive is, and automotive is base clear. Now, metal flake boats are metal flake with a clear coat on top, similar to cars base clear, but your solid colors like your solid whites, yellows, browns, blacks, those are going to be more similar to like a single stage paint is on a vehicle, which will be just solid color. So when you sand on a black boat that's a solid black, your actual water that you're sanding with will start to turn black. That's okay. Don't freak out about that. But today, to get started, all we're going to use is I've got some water. This is not glass cleaner. This is actually water with just a very, very small amount of Dawn dish soap in. That's just to help with the sanding process to make it glide a little bit better so it doesn't dig in. And this boat isn't too terribly bad in terms of being oxidized and needing to be wet sanded and polished. So I'm going to start with 1200 grit sandpaper. Now this is for a dual action sander. I'm not going to be using any of the actual equipment today. We're going to be doing this section by hand to show you a before and after. So we've got a tape line here. I will be sanding and polishing back on this area. So once we get everything done, I can lift the tape and actually show you what the old original was versus the actual wet sand and polish part, so you can see the before and after. So I've got a very soft sponge here. This is just actually a piece of packing material that happened to come in a engine crate that we had. And again, water with some Dawn dish soap. I'm just going to spray the area down. We've already cleaned it with Windex and wiped it with a rag. And next we're just going to put our sandpaper down, and I'm just going to keep sanding on this section here. And what I'm looking for is, if it's maybe a little difficult to see in the camera, but it's actually kind of a little bit of brown water we've got out of here. What I'm looking for is to sand it enough to where it's actually going to turn white, which means I'm down to the actual clear gel coat itself. So that means I have all the oxidation out of here. And keep adding water as necessary. Again, starting with 1200 grit. Next we're going to jump up to 2000. And finally I'm going to do 3000. I like to do 3000 on darker colors, your blacks, your dark blues, your solid colors, and I really like to do it on any time we're working with metal flake. It just helps everything to be a lot smoother. And as you can see here, we've got brown water, which is good. That's what we're trying to take out. So have patience. It takes a long time to do a whole boat, so make sure you guys plan accordingly. A lot of times it'll take over a weekend to get a boat completely done, especially if you're doing it by yourself. I'm actually going to go grab a rag to wipe that off. I can still feel the grittiness in it and still see it. So we're going to keep sanding with 1200 here. And this sandpaper I get locally from O'Reilly's. I believe AutoZone carries it. You can probably find it online at Amazon as well too. But everything that we'll go over with here while we're doing this today, we will provide part numbers for, and we get it all locally here at our O'Reilly's. A lot of times if they don't have it on the shelf, you can ask for it. They have it in the back, or they can normally get it in for you within a day or so. We go through a lot of this stuff, so our local O'Reilly's actually stocks all this stuff specifically for us. All right, now I'm actually starting to get some whiteness to show up. I still got some yellow and brown coming in here while I'm sanding. So we're still going to keep sanding with 1200. But I'm starting to get more of that whiteness, which is what we want. And you'll notice too, as we continue on just wet sanding, even just sanding with 1200, you're gonna start noticing it to actually shine more and to look better than the previous section that was oxidized. So we're gonna keep sanding till we get rid of that brown. We're almost ready to start 2000 grit here. Still got some grit here to it that I wanna try to eliminate. All right, now we're ready to start using 2000. This is 3M 2000 wet or dry sandpaper. Don't need a whole sheet of it. We'll actually just tear a section off. Again, using the foam pad that we have here. Same exact procedure as 1200. Spray it, spray a little bit on the sandpaper. Just keep on sanding. And this is a lot by feel when you start getting up in the higher grits of sandpaper, way more than it is actually a visual. So what we're going to be doing here is trying to feel where this thing really starts to glide easily. And once it gets gliding a lot easier, that's how we kind of know we have the smoothness that we want. And also we've removed the 1200 grit scratches. And that's all we're basically trying to do now, is trying to remove the 1200 grit scratches out of here. As you can see, it's a very tedious process. Again, guys, make sure you have patience. Make sure you're ready to spend some time working on it. A lot of guys do this in the wintertime, labor of love. It's a good way if you have cabin fever to get you back ready to go fishing again. Or boating if you're not doing a bass boat. All right. Next comes the compounding or buffing stage, and I'm gonna use, again, 3M product. No, we're not sponsored by 3M, it's just what we can get locally and what works well. This is the high gloss gel coat compound. Part number is 06025. It comes in like a paint gallon bucket. It is expensive. You can get multiple boats out of 1 gallon of this stuff, but it works really, really well and it's specifically formulated for gel coat. So I like to use a little chip brush and we just kind of dab it in here. Now we're actually going to apply it to the sanded portion of the boat, okay? So get some of this and we're just going to lather it on here. I'm using a rotary buffer with a white wool pad. Now again, this is for compounding, buffing, whatever you want to call it. I'll be honest, I'm cheap. I use cheap buffers. This one's from Harbor Freight. I think it's like 40 bucks. And we do a lot of buffing and a lot of polishing, and these things actually last a really good long time. So I don't really think there's any need to go out and spend $300 on a buffer or polisher. These things work awesome. We get our pads again from O'Reilly's, where we get our compounds and stuff. And what I do is I start it slow to kind of work the compound into the area that we're polishing, and then we're going to speed it up from there. So I always start out at 1, speed it up to 3 or 4, and I may even finish at 5 just when we're starting to run out of compound and stuff when it gets heated up. So all right, we just got done compounding, buffing, whichever you want to call it. Now I'm using a 3M Perfect-It, or known as number 2 for you automotive guys, and part number is 06064. Now I'm going to be using the same rotary buffer that we already did, but I'm using a black Finesse-It foam pad. Some of you guys like to call it a waffle pad. I'm going to apply the compound directly onto the boat. We've got a little rag here that I'm going to use to move it around. Then we're going to actually begin what's called polishing now with our waffle foam pad. The key to this is you always want it on low speeds. This is going to help take out some of the swirl marks that would have been put in there by the wool pad, and this is actually going to help polish, and you really start to see the shine come with this. And you don't always have to. I like to polish it twice. I like to always make sure we go over everything really, really well, especially on the polishing stage. One thing you will want to be careful of, especially when you're buffing, watch cords or cleats. We'll actually take this off when we finish the rest of the boat. that can grab the buffer and it'll yank some stuff, or it'll grab a cable, throw it around. It actually hurts. It's kind of funny to watch unless you're the guy that it happens to. But also beware of the rub rail too. Some guys will actually put some of this tape all the way around on the rub rail. I just like to be very cautious of the rub rail. Haven't really messed one up yet. So again, just some things to be cautious of, because you can mess some stuff up doing this as well. All right, last step we're going to be doing is actually adding wax now. This is a Meguiar's cleaner wax. There's carnauba wax. You want to get something that has a lot of UV inhibitor in it. This is really good stuff. I kind of prefer the paste wax myself. I think it goes further. The stuff that's kind of liquid that comes in the bottle, I feel like a lot of your buffing pads may absorb too much of it, and you actually lose a lot of material and waste money by actually having it in the pad or the rag or the microfiber, whatever, using it to apply. So I, again, like to use paste wax whenever possible. I think it just goes on better and works. Just kind of work some of that around. I like to use circle motion. Some people can put it on straight. All we're looking to do is just to move it around on that section that we just got done polishing. We'll let it set up and haze really, really well. Then we'll take a clean microfiber cloth to remove the hazed portion of wax. Then we'll pull our tape line here and see what we got. The key to this stuff is you can always resand, rebuff, repolish. Once you go through too far though, you can't go back without actually respraying the metal flake, which on this boat, I don't even know on the age of this boat if you could find that same color metal flake. So get that real good mixed in there. Now we're going to let it haze up. And as soon as it gets done hazing up, we'll take our cloth, remove the wax, and then we'll pull the tape line so you can see the before and after.
Real quick, can you do it?
Now the wax is finally hazed up, it's time to remove it. So we're going to take our microfiber cloth and remove the wax and see the shine beneath. So check it out. Now we're going to remove the tape and we're going to show you the oxidized section of the boat versus the wet sanded and polished side section of the boat. And there is our difference. It's a heck of a difference. Now on to the rest of the boat. Thanks for watching this video. Check us out, russellmarineproducts.com.